Psychic Holistic Spotlight. I'm your host, Josie Way, and tonight as co-host we have Sherry Kachanis and Ken Demers, and I'm very pleased to say that we have Nadine Nahabidian. She's a psychic and a medium, and very clever. She's designed a tool for other people to be able to be psychic and to tune into their own intuition to help themselves and others. And how did all of this start?
How did all of this start? Well, growing up, I always enjoyed any little books on horoscopes or numerology or anything like that. And by the time I was 12, I was actually reading, but unaware of the fact that I was actually reading. And when I was 14, I went to a Baptist camp, overnight camp, and the ministers there asked if I would do a booth in their fundraiser where I'd be reading people.
Wow.
So, of course, I said, okay, but I thought it was a game. I just thought it was fun. And when adults queued up and kept coming for readings and telling me that whatever it was that I was doing was working and it was correct, I started to get the hint that maybe something else was going on. It wasn't just a game. So throughout my life, I read for people. As I hear stories all the time from customers. Oh, I've read people before. I've done some of that, but not officially. And so unofficially, I did readings all my life. And then 20 years ago, I opened up my store in Putnam and began my professional career. And it's really been a blast. I can't say it any other way. It's been so much fun. And
for those of us that know your store, there are others that don't know. It's the Cosmic Cat in Putnam.
The Cosmic Cat in Putnam, Connecticut, right downtown next to the Bradley Playhouse.
I'm going there.
Oh, good. It'll be so nice to see you there. I'll show you around. And I used to actually have a cat there.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Fun. He was there for 16 years.
Oh,
wow. He was the best. He was my little business partner. He used to never leave the alcove. I could not believe that a cat would stay so close to the door, never leave, never touch the sidewalk, and actually entice people to come into my store. They would come in and say, oh, what kind of store is this? Because they didn't know where they were walking. They were just following him. He's so cute.
So I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
Okay. No. So the question was
20 years ago.
Okay. So I brought myself up to that. Yes, and I opened the store. And when I first got there, I did readings, but I used playing cards because I was 12 years old when I started, and that's what was there. And I hadn't done tarot at all. And so when my customers first came in, they would say, "Do you do readings?" And I said, yes, I do. And then they said, do you read tarot? And I said, no. And they left. So I had a new friend. His name was Bill. And he read the tarot cards. And I said, could I please borrow those? And I took the tarot cards. And the next time someone came in, I said, yes, I read the tarot cards. And I put the tarot cards out and did my reading. And Bill said, how did you do that? I said to him, a psychic reading is a psychic reading. Whatever tool you use, you're still doing the same thing.
Well, the playing cards are basically based on the tarot cards.
Sure they are. They came first, right?
So you just gave the wrong answer.
Well, I just put the tarot cards down and...
The part of your story that intrigues me is a Baptist ministers asked you to do.
Isn't that interesting?
Readings?
Yeah. Isn't that?
That's like, wow.
Absolutely. I was 14, and I thought those guys were great.
Were they serious? I mean,
I did angel readings for a Christian high school. Two girls and I, another girl and I, for a special event for them, for their Halloween party. They had an all-night Halloween party for the kids at the school, and Christine and I did readings. So, pretty open-minded.
Some people got open minds. Many Christian ministers, I find, are very understanding.
Well, my experience has been
they don't
a good
understand
one,
it
I
at all.
guess.
So
Yeah, I've had a great relationship with that, and it also led to my belief that there's spirituality in all religions. And even at the age of 14, I remember in my town, I lived in Watertown, Massachusetts, and there were so many churches on Route
nice
16.
spiritualist church there.
So many, right in the Masonic temple. And so when I was a kid, I wanted to visit every church because I wanted to know what the difference was. And the only thing I found different, the feeling was in every one of them, you know, and the spirit was in every one of them, but the Congregational church had really good food afterwards.
Okay.
So, okay.
Anyway, this
How
kind
did
of
we get to
intrigues
this?
me.
How did we get to
What
this?
you've done is combined a bunch of different modalities into what seems to be a simple way of presenting it to the public.
Right. So what we were saying was that whatever tool you use, if you're doing a psychic reading, the tool is the least important thing, okay? It's important to you because it helps you to get to where you want to go and get the information that you need. But one tool is not necessarily better than the other tool, okay? So as I grew in my store and learned different things about different people, I was teaching a tarot class, and one of the women in the class was playing with the stones the whole time that we were having the class. And I said, "Gee, Carol, you really like those stones. Maybe you should read the stones." And she says, "How would I do that?" And I said, "Well, I don't know, but I'll figure it out." So I took the stones home. And the next week, I had invented a process to do it.
How many stones?
At that time, I don't know how many I had, probably a dozen or so. And I did a reading for her, thinking, this is for you. And she said, "Wow, Nadine, that's the best reading you've ever done for me. That's amazing. You should use the stones." So from that point on, I used crystals as part of my divination, as part of my...
How many do we have in this semicircle?
Okay. So when I got to the kit, we have 17. When I got to the kit, I was trying to put something together. My objective was, I want as many people as possible to be able to do what I do. And the kind of person I am, I don't know about you, but I'm the kind of person, like, if I'm going to sew a dress, if I can't do it in 30 minutes, I won't do it. It's like I have to do it really quickly. So a lot of people are like that too. They want to learn something fast. They don't want to spend the next 3 years trying to figure out how to do it. And even the tarot takes a lot of effort, a lot of memorization, right? So I said, I have to put something together that's self-explanatory, that also uses the energy of the crystals, because it was amazing. By that time in my life, I really respected that. And that's adaptable to all the different systems. So I said, well, I've learned about the houses in astrology, and I've learned about runes, and I've learned about crystals, and you can actually even use tarot with this. And I have, especially, have you ever seen the little mini tarot cards? They're so cute. You can use those. Yeah. So I poured over it and tried to figure out exactly what I wanted to do, and this is the result. I took the astrological wheel and adapted it the way I wanted to, because I do believe that adapting things is your best process. Whatever you're comfortable with is going to work much better for you than someone else's idea of what you should be doing, right?
Absolutely.
Have you found that?
Yes.
So we've got the astrological wheel, so to speak. Okay, I call it the wheel of aspects. And then we've got the runes, and I said, I don't want to look them up. I just want...
You want it right there.
I want it right there, and I want other people to be able to see it too. And then, of course, the crystals. People had been asking me, can you please teach me how to use the crystals? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I can do that, because it's a lot. I felt like it was a lot more to explain, because all I ever did was take the crystals, put them down, and the process worked for me. So here we have the crystals, and you use them in the same...
Which is kind of the traditional way of using crystals.
Casting them.
Casting them, right?
Yeah.
Right. And you've got their energy. It's beautiful. You've got the vibrational effect of them and the touch from them. And then I'm going to show you how to do it, of course. But the crystals mixing in with the runes gives you all the different aspects of life that you could, all different stories that you could come up with. Just about anything that may have happened to you or that will happen to you. can be brought through. Unlike the tarot cards, the meanings of these that I've given are simply words. They're just ideas. They're not telling you this is how this has to be. So what happens is when people get together, especially young people, they see them interacting with each other and it speaks to them, it tells them a story. And I always encourage them and tell them that I feel that your imagination is the closest thing to your intuition. So I let them tell the story. And that's virtually what this kit does. And when I first put it out there, and I had the first few people using it, because I would demonstrate it and they would demonstrate it back, I couldn't even believe it myself. Because
it worked well for them.
These people who had never done anything before, had no stories to tell of how they'd done psychic things before and so on and so forth.
What I find is that no matter what type of divination you're going to use, as long as you believe it's going to work, it will work for you. So you're showing them how to do it and saying this works, so they know it works, so they just do it.
Yes, and you can do it and you don't have to memorize and you don't have to be an expert, and there's no right and wrong. That's the biggest thing. There's no right and wrong, just go forward, you know. And also, unlike the tarot sometimes boxes us in. You know, this is a king, therefore it's male, therefore, you know, this particular king would have dark hair. And I got a little nudgy with those when I was reading them, because not everyone looks like the picture, you know. And sometimes what I would see in my mind was completely different. The personality of the card may be there, but the rest of it didn't jive.
See, when I read tarot cards, I just put out like 7 in a row.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
And I read it like a story, much like what you're talking about. Instead of trying to assign values to it,
right.
I just
Instead of saying, oh, well, when I see this card, it means this, and when I see it next to that card, it means that. You know, there are so many. But if you read it like a story, exactly,
like
exactly, because there are so many different meanings it may have. So to begin with, would you like to try?
Yeah.
Who gets first dibs? Okay. Well, here's some extra books, and no.
Well,
You're going to be
I put this one here,
all right, that's
so
fine.
we can
Here's an extra book
see
for
that.
you. Okay. And
You know, I did want to say something. You're right. All creation is born of the imagination, and it's the intent, and that is the power behind it all.
yeah, it's great.
So,
Yes, and if it weren't for, all right, imagination leads us to the intuition. We wouldn't get there if we weren't thinking of something different, of something new. And vice versa, we would never create anything if it weren't for our intuition, because we'd be stuck with everything that we do already know, and there wouldn't be anything else. Right.
Nothing inspired.
Right. Okay, so what we're going to do, we've turned it this way to face our audience, but basically it would be
Now
facing
describe
you.
this. This is a soft cloth.
Right, it's a bandana actually, and I've printed the wheel on it, and we're going to pick up. Right now, I just put these out there to show you that we have a representative of each one. Okay, and we're going to take all of the runes. It's brand new, so it's still kind of a little bit.
And what are the
And
runes
if you
on? Are
grab
those
the
like
center of
mother
it and pick it up, you
It's
got a
mother
little
of
witch's
pearl.
hat.
There you go.
That is beautiful.
Oh, I know the mother of pearl. That's so cool. That
Yeah,
came
it
from
is
a
very
place in Rhode Island.
Nice. Very cool.
So I'm going to take the entire handful. I'll show you once, and then you can have it from there. And what you'll do, and in the book it will describe a whole ritual, a whole method of doing it, which, of course, everything that I've written is ready to be adapted to whatever makes you most comfortable.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
I've even put some things in there, and I've asterisked it and said it's optional. Okay? So the way I would do it is I would take the crystals and stones, and I ask the person to see themselves in their mind. So you can either close your eyes or not and see a picture of yourself. Look at yourself in your mind without prejudice. Don't look at your hair or your clothing or anything like that. Just say, okay, that's me. That's my face. That's what I look like.
Okay.
And when you do, open your eyes, come to the center, hover right over the very center, and then state your name out loud and open your hands the width of the circle. So I would say, Nadine. I got a little sticky from under the lights, but basically,
Okay.
like that.
It's almost like an astrology forecast.
That she said that.
You know, no. I hear what you're saying, and that's really interesting to me. I hadn't thought of that, but that's a really good idea. You know, the wheel.
Yeah.
This is different. This is the houses, but or
Same
similar
thing.
to the houses. But yes, if it depicted the wheel in some way, I haven't done that. But
Well, when you did it, what I saw
what you
was
saw,
an
yeah,
astrology
I
chart.
felt it. As soon as you said, I felt it. That's really cool. I'll have to speak to somebody who does astrology charts because that's not something that I'm.
And
I felt you had already said it. That's
No, I said this mimics the
What-
houses because I found that interesting.
what is 8?
What is, oh, okay.
Because of that
Well, these
little
things
cluster.
are all in the book, okay? There's one word, and this is past. And basically, this piece of the pie would be the past as it applies to you in whatever circumstances are going on right now. But I'd really like her to throw the stones for me because,
So basically, what we just had was a reading for you.
yeah, so
Yes.
quick, get rid of it. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I like the way they feel.
Oh, don't they? It's great. I love touching
Cool and
crystals anyway.
smooth.
Ooh,
Ooh, they keep
it's
on.
telling, you know.
You're casting already.
It's
I know.
telling.
Should I leave those out? or
No.
Okay, so let's.
But let's see where they turn up.
Okay, so what are you doing now?
I see myself clearly in my mind's eye.
Right.
And now I'm going to drop them the width of the circle.
You're going to open your eyes, and you're going to get down to about 1 inch or so, or a little bit higher, and then you're going to open your hands the width. Oh, beautiful. You did such a good job.
A very balanced cast.
Now, the ones that didn't go into the circle, we can remove. Okay, and if they even touch the circle, we'll leave them there. In the book, I recommend that you take the runes that are overturned off, but just between you and me and whoever else is watching. I keep them on because to me, the reversed runes are maybe elements that we don't see right now, or things that we are leaning away from. Depends on how we want to interpret it. Everything is up for interpretation. Now, if there is a stone or a rune that lands directly in the center, I like to think of that as the subject. Okay? This cloth is brand new, so it has a little bit of a crease. So I like to think that perhaps this one may be in the center.
Those quartz.
Yeah.
Okay? And then what will happen is the story will continue on outward. So this is the subject, and then this is what is around it now. Okay, and then further along, and I like to call this eventually. It's interesting because you will see certain elements happening in certain areas of your life at certain times, along with other things at that same time. Okay. The crystals are the only thing that we don't have listed here. All right, and I did work hard to work with one's psychology. I definitely believe that that our belief system and our psychology is the easiest way for us to remember things, and that if we disregard it, it's going to be a lot more difficult for us. So we all saw the pink, the rose quartz in the middle, and what subject might that be?
Love, heart.
Exactly. And so when you want to know what the crystals mean, they're listed, there's a picture of them right on the cover, okay? And they're in order, you don't even have to know their names. Number 1 would be the purple stone, which happens to be amethyst. And the rose quartz is over here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, number 14. So right at the crease begin the crystal meanings. And number 14 is rose quartz. Okay, it describes it so you know you've got the right stone. And it says it might stand for love, friends, compassion, heart, romance. It can be any of these things or all of these things, depending on how you decide to interpret it. Then we would begin with the first slice of the pie, which is self. And when I first wrote this book, I put a very strong message for what self is, but it has morphed a little bit as I've used it, as it will for everyone else. And self here says how the subject presents and feels, what he or she is about, where he or she is in life, and priorities. Now, this could be talking about the subject of love and friends and romance, or it could simply be talking about you. And as you go along, you'll start to understand that. I find it really interesting that the stone, because I do know a little bit because you talked to me, but this is the stone for location. And that's right? Priorities, isn't that what's going on? Mm-hmm. And it looks like it's coming soon, but it's not happening yet.
Yeah.
Okay? And this is a rune that's turned over. Are you ready? Do you see which rune that is?
Patience.
No.
Harvest.
Wait a minute. Nope. Let's see if I can find it for you.
Oh, intuition. Because I am following my intuition.
Not only that, there is intuition touching the location. So the location is about intuition and psychic things, correct?
Yes.
Isn't that amazing?
She is moving in November to help start a psychic establishment?
Actually, it's going to be a center of healing, learning, and growth.
In South Carolina.
In South Carolina.
There you go.
So that first two stones is kind of right on the button.
This is what happens. It just amazes me. And there's nothing complicating it, which is also very good. Mm-hmm. You know, someone might say, oh, there's nothing else there, but no, there's nothing complicating it. It's very clear. It's a very clear and direct route for you, and it is truly your priority.
Yes.
Okay? Okay, and if you want to go around the circle, we'll go a little bit, and then we can do a little of each of you. Is that how we do it? Depending on
I don't know
if
they'll have enough time to do everybody.
Okay, you got lucky. So in the money section, I like to think of the money section, for me personally, that to me tells me what you value, okay? And with other people, you know, it might be their family, it might be money itself, and it might be their car, you know, whatever they value. And you have two runes here, face up. One, the single word for it here is birth, and the other, the single word is harvest. So what I'm feeling from that is that you are equally, you equally value a new beginning as you do something that's already coming to fruition. So for you, it's almost the same thing. A new beginning is what you planted your seed for and received.
Yes.
Right? And that's what it's all about for you. Okay. The people section is kind of weird. Nothing there. It's empty. And in the people section, we would find out who you're socializing with or communicating with, or what is transpiring between you and others. And apparently there's a little bit of a lull here. So perhaps that's necessary for you to do what you need to do, is to maybe not cut ties, because I don't see that happening there, but to just leave that aside for right now.
It's been a very internal process, especially going through my things, because I'm primarily getting rid of the majority of my belongings. And that's difficult to do with other people around.
I'll bet.
So it's been very solitary.
Right.
You know, there are some people in my life, obviously, but but a lot of quiet time.
Right. It's not a disconnect.
No.
It's just a quietness. You know,
Going
not happening right now, and it's not about that. And in the home section, which obviously if you're relocating, that's going to have something to tell, we have the stone that stands for work.
Adventure.
So work is your home at this point. And I think of home, the home section, as ET phone home. Where do you feel comfortable? It doesn't have to be where you live. It's just, where do I belong? Where do I fit in? And down the road, okay, we have the female stone, okay, the quartz, which is a female stone. In this case, we have the male stone over here. And she stands for nurturing and giving.
She's going to give up boys and get a nice lady friend?
Well, that's her prerogative, but this isn't about relationships.
It's not about that. It's about
more
home.
about where she feels comfortable. I think she feels comfortable in her home or true home. Eventually, will be someplace where people are giving love and nurturing to each other, the motherly kind, not the relationship kind, the motherly kind. Okay.
Okay.
And that could be men and women.
We're down to 5 minutes.
Okay.
So I wanted to say that we should try and focus on the areas that have the most stuff in them.
That's saying the same thing. The life path, which is kind of a big thing.
I also haven't really spoken more about what this is all about for people.
Yes.
And
well, you have to come back.
Oh, okay. We can do that. That's always fun. Okay, so you just want me to look at a couple more of the areas?
Yeah, I think so. And I want to thank our audience for being with us. And thank you, Ken, and thank you, Sherry, and thank you, Nadine.
Oh, you are so welcome. I love it here.
The life path seems to be very short term, I would say.
By the way,
coming shortly. Whereas
oh, you
this
mean she's getting on board? She's getting on board with it.
However
right away.
you want to phrase it.
Right.
Well, this one is spread out long term. This is very short term.
Lots of.
Maybe.
Well, this is just coming in quicker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Short term.
Because it will be here. It's arriving. The hematite stone, I often think of that as a left brain stone. So there'll be a lot of left brain work to do. It's touching the aventurine, which is work. So there'll be a lot of things that you have to think through clearly, not just intuit, but
yes,
figure out for yourself. And the stone, the rune right after it is victory. So this is something that you've always wanted, but it is something you are actually doing that you will successfully do. What I like is the bismuth. I love the bismuth because it's a surprise. It could be conflict, you know, but it's definitely a surprise. It's something happening. It's a happening. So after you've already recognized your victory in making whatever this is that you want to have happen, it may not be exactly the way you think. And it might be even better because the joy rune follows it up. So I think whatever direction you are headed in right now is definitely a good choice.
Now, what about the 11th house with goals?
Goals.
With that one piece way out
Sure,
there.
you want to talk
Jasper?
about that one at the very end of the session?
No, how about the chefs?
This is the passion and sex stone.
Well, that's on the table for now.
So wherever there is love, okay, these two stones for me, when I use them, signify a relationship. So there's definitely a goal here for a relationship and a successful outcome eventually. But all these other things are necessary.
So for the next year or so, she can be sober.
Oh, is that the way it has to be? That's not necessarily true. She just may be so busy and wrapped up in what she's doing that the relationship that she brings toward her will not blossom until she's relaxed in that.
With that thought, I don't know how much time we got.
Very little.
Is there a masculine area of this?
Well, you've got the male
masculine
stone, which also stands for, it's a magic wand and it's also a focus stone. And it's sitting right on top of the word partnership in the partnership slice of the pie.
So she's going to eventually have some kind of a relationship with somebody that's
She's so interested.
involved in this stuff?
It kind of looks that way. Yes, but she's going to have other relationships as well. See all that? This is like mankind. She'll be in relationship with people in general to begin with, and then there'll be some discernment that comes along her relationship road because there'll be many people around her, and she'll have to decide which to keep and which to let go. And then shortly after that, there'll be the arrival of someone who, and this is karma, who's meant to be introduced to her life.
Okay.
And at that same time.
And I think we just ran out of time.
Yes.
Okay.
Very neat. Very nice
Thank
system.
you.
So basically, anybody could do this.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nadine's
Telling
shop
a story.
is on Route 44 in Putnam, Connecticut, across the street from the big antique mall.
With all the
And
antiques.
next door
So
to
everybody
Bradley
knows
Theater.
where that is.
Right next to the Bradley.
I don't know where the Bradley
Downtown.
is. But
Well, it's downtown.